So thank you for joining us for our panel discussion session. And we're going to welcome on the stage in a minute Andrea and Mark, who are going to talk us through, and we're just going to have a nice Thursday afternoon chat about what's going to happen in the cookieless world. And do we think this is going to be the end of performance marketing and retargeting, and what is or isn't going to happen? And I suppose more importantly, what do you need to consider for your business? We do have Abby's also in the background helping us on our Q&A and our chat. So if you've got any questions, or if you want to join in and debate, stick your hand up, fire your question to the chat. We hopefully will answer it live for you. Any questions that don't get answered live, we'll follow up afterwards on email. And again, if you want to hang around, this was something that came up on a couple of ones a few months ago. If you want to stay around afterwards, we'll hang around for sort of 5, 10, 15 minutes at the end. If you want to, we can turn your camera on and we can actually delve into some of your questions if you'd like. So we will finish on time. And but first of all, I wanted to sort of give you something for free. So what we'd like to do is, if you want to we're experts in data as a business at Modo25 and Bosco. We recently did a white paper on attribution and which click wins. So if you want to get your hands on that, there won't be a form. So I know nobody likes to give away too much data, so we already know who you are because you're on our webinar, so we won't ask you for your data again. But if you email yes please to me at askbosco.io, or if you just scan that QR code, it'll take you straight to a link where you can just save a copy of our white paper. Hopefully it's useful and will give you some insights. The next webinar panel session we're doing, and we're going to be doing these every 2 weeks now. Lots of people have given us some really positive feedback. So again, if you want to be on the panel, let me know, we'll get you on the stage. But next one in 2 weeks, where we're going to be talking about the sort of pros and cons of in-housing, and I suppose which bits can you in-house, or should you leave with an agency? So, and we've got David Evans on from Currys, who has successfully in-housed all his paid marketing. So he's going to be talking through the sort of the trials and tribulations of doing that, both around people, platforms, systems, the tech, what you need to do to successfully in-house your digital marketing. So that's on the 7th. So again, if you'd like to join us, we'd love to see you then. But I just thought we should qualify why we're authorized to talk about all this stuff and for who Modo25 are. So I'm John Redman. I'm the founder of Modo25. I set the business up 3 years ago next week, and we have just 2 sides to our business. One is Modo25, which is a supported in-housing sort of full service digital marketing agency, but we want to work with clients over time. We want to take elements of that in-house. So we sort of transition our knowledge to our clients. And then we support you with Bosco, which is our marketing AI decision analytics engine, which will help you drive and grow your profits. It's sort of agency level tech that we help give people in-house. However, there's a slightly bigger picture behind our business. I met my co-founder, Bonamy Grimes, who is the founder of Skyscanner, on a charity bike ride where we were raising money for One More Child. And we actually named the business after Modo, one of the children at One More Child. And she's a 9-year-old girl who's been taken off the street. She was an orphan, and we've given her a sort of second chance, along with 280 other children that we actually help. And we've named our software Bosco after one of the people who runs the charity. But I suppose the thing that makes me really proud on a daily basis is over a third of our team, 35% of our team, actually donate some of their money every single month to help the kids in Africa. And we do loads of charity events. We did a Tough Mudder last month as a team to raise money to help those less fortunate than us. So we're more than just the typical sort of software service business or agency business. So what we're trying to solve at Modo25 with Bosco is, where do I invest my next pound or dollar? I'm sure those marketeers on here have been asked many times, is like, well, how much could I spend, or which channel should we invest in next? And they're the sort of questions we want to answer at the push of a button. And a lot of this relies on tracking and relies on cookies, which we're sort of going to get into in the discussion in a couple of minutes' time. So we often talk about, are people sort of gambling and just sticking money into different channels and hoping for the best? And often it can feel like that. So, and it's a really sort of complex puzzle And I think one thing we can all agree, it's not just the cost of living at the moment that is getting more expensive, it's also the cost of media. So Google's costs are getting more. We've all been fighting over that last click and that end of funnel conversion. And it's a really complex puzzle, but we've created some really complicated AI software with built-in decision intelligence to make it easier for you. And ultimately, we put all your data into one place, and we then organize and structure all of that. And then what we do is give you views on that data and some AI and machine learning overlaid on top to enable you to ask smarter questions and make better decisions. I am just quickly going to show you what it looks like, just so you know it's not just a screenshot. And you can also see I've got far too many tabs open there. Let's just go. And really, the reason I thought this was important is we've got lots of big questions as an analytics reporting business that helps people forecast the future. We've got some really big questions on what impact will this have on our business, and what impact will it have on the software and the tracking and everything we're doing within there. So again, the purpose of this discussion isn't to sell Boss Go and talk about Boss Go, but it's fundamentally important of how we measure performance. And what we want to do is make sure we've got an accurate view of all our clients' performance in one place to make it easier and more efficient so they can report on their performance and ultimately predict the future so they can make more profit and save time in the future. So this is what we do for a living. We spend our life in and out of these sorts of dashboards and building these for clients. So it's really, really complex and difficult, and it's only going to get harder when we've got less data. So what Boss Go does is help you save time, gives you action insights, hopefully will make you more money, and it helps you reduce media costs. So we're literally promising spend less, make more. But what we're actually here to talk about today is the cookieless world. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I'm going to ask Andrea and Mark to turn on their cameras, and hopefully we can get cracking. So welcome.
Hi.
Hello. So, so first of all, if you guys can do a quick introduction, name, star sign, background, and give everybody a little insight as to sort of your reason for being on here and why you qualified to talk about this. And then we'll have a nice friendly chat. Hopefully people want to ask some questions. So if you've got questions, stick them in the Q&A below or into the chat below. And we'll try and discuss and answer your questions live. So, Andrea, do you want to go first? Introduce yourself, and then Mark, and then we'll dive into it.
Yeah, absolutely. I will go very quick as well. I'm Andrea. I'm Director of Strategy here at Modo 25. Director of Strategy with a very keen interest in data science and measurement, I might add. Well, I started my career in PPC actually almost 10 years ago, and then moved on to cross-channel planning and strategy, department or area of our industry. So being essentially responsible for delivering integrated omni-channel digital performance, focusing on efficiency, incrementality, measurement, profitable growth, basically for some of the key brands that I've been lucky enough to work with. I'm working on a day-to-day basis very closely with the data science teams and with the activation team to make sure that happens, right? Efficiency and effectiveness. So I guess that's me in a nutshell.
Okay, good. And it sounds like you're more than qualified to talk about tracking and cookies and everything.
We'll see.
Yeah, hopefully. So, Mark.
Yeah, hi, I'm Mark. I'm an e-commerce manager at Salonwear Direct and Uniforms for Healthcare. I've been working as an e-commerce manager for the last 8 years, and probably the last 20 years I've been in the retail and online sales industry. I'm very analytically driven. I spend half my day every day in Google Analytics, looking at data, looking at where we can improve stuff, where we can fix issues and grow businesses really. And I'm keen to understand what we can do, how we can change the way that we're tracking people and the way we can understand the data, now that it's going to get harder and harder to track people and understand where people are coming from and who people are.
Okay, good. Now's your time if you want as well, Mark. Give Sullenware a bit of a plug. We might have some people who need some gowns or something on.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if you're looking for design focus or fashion focused tunics and dresses and stuff for your salons and beauticians and stuff like that, Sullenware Direct is the place to go. Alternatively, uniforms for healthcare is the same thing, but for the medical industry.
Yeah, no, good. So. Well, first of all, thank you, both of you, for joining me. And I really want to start with, when did all this cookieless stuff kick off? Because I think there's this sort of feeling in the industry that like this is something that's happening or is about to happen, but it's sort of already happening in some places. So I don't know, Andrea, if you want to start with that, and then we'll pull Mark in and we'll go. But when did all this sort of start happening, and which elements of our online journey is it already happening in?
Yeah, absolutely. So it actually started a while ago. I mean, maybe we're kind of losing sense of time because of the different reasons we've been through, but it started happening almost 5 years ago. So I guess we all know that there's the topic about privacy and consumer being a bit mindful about sharing their data on the internet started to be like a bit of a hot topic, a while ago. So definitely there's that desire from the customer to just be more protective and be, us as marketers, be respectful of their privacy. It's so much like we found some these stats and research. It says that 90% of the customers are actually concerned about the amount of data that they share with on the internet about themselves, and half of this, so almost 45%, have taken already specific steps to reduce the amount of data that they share online. So it's definitely a very important concern that people have. So this desire and this concern from the users side obviously influenced the changes in legislations. So we had GDPR happening 4 or 5 years ago, and then that kind of causes changes in technology. So now we have the cookie consent banner, but also we have a lot of technology platforms that have implemented or announced restrictions around data collection and user tracking on the web browsers and operating system. So this type of shifts, like legislation, technology, will naturally influence user behavior. And we started seeing that already. So, for example, you opt out of tracking. So that's something that a user consciously is seeking for, that option, right? So yeah, it all started in 2017. Actually, Apple were the first ones to introduce the ITP. So it stands for Intelligent Tracking Prevention. That was across the Safari web browsers. And basically that limited the cookie, the cross-site tracking, essentially by limiting the time, the cookies, like putting a time limit on cookies. Then in 2018, we had GDPR. So that was the customer consent required for data usage. That, it's a legislation and that's not negotiable. 2019, very quickly, we had ITP 2.2. So that's again the Apple part of the story, and ETP, that was the Mozilla Firefox blocking companies from using cookies for retargeting and attribution purposes. So that was really interesting. Then in 2020, we had, so the US kind of joined from a legislation point of view with the CCPA, so the California Act. And then 2021, which was the biggest and most impactful year to date, with again led by Apple with iOS 14.5. So that was the enhanced consumer app tracking transparency. And we started seeing a lot of impact from then on. And obviously Google announced in 2021, I believe, that they would be sunsetting third-party cookies on Chrome in 2022. We know that they kind of pushed that back to 2023. And now recently they announced that that's going to be pushed back.
Well, we'll come back. We'll come back to why they're pushing it back. So that gives us a sort of really good chronological order of like, this isn't anything new, but I suppose really until sort of this time, like when it was last summer, wasn't it, when iOS 14 started doing their privacy stuff, and it really impacted. I suppose from your side, Mark, as an e-commerce professional, how's this changed how you report and how you plan and how you market, like with this limited view of what is or isn't going on?
Well, yeah, I mean, it makes it more difficult for us to kind of understand the full nature of our traffic coming into to the website, and also market to these kind of people. I mean, it's you can only get so much data from Google Analytics. I know there are other platforms out there that will try and help with with more data and stuff like that. But as a small business, we haven't got the luxury of certain things like that. But yeah, I mean, with all these privacy settings and all these kind of lockdowns on more and more privacy and more tracking, it's only going to make it harder for us to try and kind of see issues in the websites and see issues with what we're currently doing, and try to and when we try to attract new customers and try and market to existing customers and stuff like that, it's only going to make it harder. It's going to be a frustration for a number of years to come, I'm sure.
Yeah, it was just one of the questions actually just coming from Callum, and I think this is everybody's point as well. And we actually had the session 2 weeks ago when we did the panel session. It was all about GA4, and GA4 is even going more privacy focused, and this is like part of the whole thing. So what Callum's sort of suggestion was just to remind everybody that you need to start thinking about your GA4 migration now, because otherwise you won't get your historical data. But that's available to watch if you want to watch that again. That was with Mike, one of our data scientists, who was talking all about that. And I think as we go forward, and I'm just going to talk about why Google are moving it out. Right? Let's just start this sort of bit of my sort of Google bashing, just to wind everybody up on a Thursday afternoon. Is fundamentally the advertising industry is worth billions, okay? And Google are making a lot of money by tracking people and selling retargeting and having cross device, cross website tracking, third-party cookies, as are Facebook. Facebook is slightly less so now because of iOS 14. You'd argue that Apple are actually having, I don't know if you've seen the numbers, but Apple's ads within their own app store, people are now having to push more in there. So their own advertising revenues increase hugely because people can't advertise elsewhere to push people to Apple. So that's interesting. So did they do it as a privacy thing, or are actually people doing this fundamentally because they want to control the first party data and make more money, right? So my view is have Google pushed it out, not necessarily to help everybody, which is what they said, there's a downturn, this, that, and the other, but maybe they haven't actually worked out yet how to keep making loads of money, and it's going to have such a big impact on their revenues that they don't want to do it. I don't know if that's a bit cynical. What do you reckon, Mark? Could that be a thing?
Well, yeah, I mean,
Google's watching, but
well, no, I think, yeah, absolutely. It's Google. They're always trying to cover their own backs and make as much money as possible. So, yeah, I do agree with you.
Yeah.
I think also
as a Google certified professional, you better be careful.
Yes, no, but I'm not gonna say this about Google only, but all the big fours, right? Amazon, Facebook, Google, walled gardens, right? Like they have a lot of data. They have, well, some of them, they have the benefit of people being signed into their apps. And I think they will naturally benefit from this shift, actually, because it's more like, it's less transparency for us as marketers, but they do still have the data. They have their own first-party data. If you're logged in, I mean, they will still be able to know and to signals to reach you. It's just a bit frustrating, I think, in the short term for us as marketers, because as Mark was saying as well, it's just going to be very difficult to know and to be able to segment to audience. It will be more difficult to personalize, will be more difficult to reach those users in a very measurable one-to-one.
I think we've all got so used to being able to hyper target message, right platform, right device, right time. We can stick the right pair of shoes for the right person on the right device. Whereas, as to that meant, technically we're probably paying if you per a pair of eyes or per click. Whereas now, because we can't target so much, we're going to have to go out to broader audiences potentially to find that person who wants to buy that tunic or whatever, and therefore the platform wins, because the platform you have to buy more clicks or more eyeballs. So it's going to be interesting. But I think also it's going to, I suppose, because again, this is predominantly the third party tracking. It's not all tracking, right? So first party. So I suppose from a sort of, as a retailer, Mark, what are you thinking around first party tracking? What are you doing around sort of customer data? Where's your thinking at with that? Are you starting to plan anything around that?
Well, yeah, I mean, we've already, I've only been working for Salonware for about a year, and my kind of main focus over the last 12 months has been all about kind of customer retention, rather than, buying new customers and pouring more into the funnel at the top. Mainly because, if you've got a leaky bucket, there's no point in pouring more water in the top of it. So I've been trying to focus more on the retention of what we've got, try and get those customers back online, and then with the help of GA4, when it eventually down the line, because we've set it up now, we're getting the data to use. We're going to be able to set up lookalike audiences and stuff like that to try and help us. Once we get the remarketing, once we get the retention there, then we can start looking at lookalike audiences, getting new people that are in that same kind of category to come on board. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of where we're focused more on at the moment, is all about retention, all about the current customers we've got.
Yeah, and I suppose, Andrea, what have we seen with different campaigns and different clients of the effect on performance so far? And I suppose the biggest effect was Facebook, wasn't it? That's like the one where things. And I suppose, what's your view on that? And I suppose, can we prove whether Facebook does or doesn't work?
Yeah, so absolutely, the iOS 14.5 was like a big shock to the system, I think, for everyone. And we can even talk maybe a little bit more about, in terms of numbers, like what this means, and that the signal loss is actually very real. So obviously, with the rollout of the iOS 14.5, that gives the ability for users to opt out of being tracked, and so that brought with it a host of restrictions on in terms of reduced attribution windows, delayed, aggregated, and modeled in-platform data. So all the numbers and conversions and revenue might see there, a part of it is also modeled. So, reporting is still a number one priority there. And I think in terms of adoption, so it's important to know the iOS 14.5 adoption for those that have the Apple devices is around, it's probably more than 90% now.
I think I'm the only one. I'm the only one who didn't go in. I just wanted to see what might happen. I think there's me and maybe 4 or 5 other people in the team.
Are you getting everyone's remarketing then? Is
yeah, my phone is just full. I'm just full. My Facebook feed is just spammed. Yeah.
So yeah, but it's important to know that the market share of these devices is 52%, right? And actually on Facebook, it's 57%, so it's quite significant. About 60% is the estimation that the rate of the users opting out. So you're not alone for sure. And all that together means that there's a signal loss for about 25% of the UK consumers. So that's a quarter of the UK consumers that, we lost signals on that, which we cannot measure.
So we've lost these people. What could we do to try? Because I think one thing we saw, wasn't it, that, and I don't know if you did this, Mike, and everybody said, well, Facebook's not working, we're going to pull back. And then actually you keep pulling back, and because in analytics it says it's not working, but in Google, in Facebook, they're claiming it for everything. So what's the sort of, without getting into the nuances of the data science, what's the sort of quick and easy options that retailers could do to try and prove and test these things work? And I guess also thinking around this sort of testing framework and methodologies about media activation, maybe how we start thinking in the future when we have less tracking.
Absolutely. So testing. That's an always on roadmap that should be there, and everyone should plan for it. Because as you said, marketing effectiveness, it should serve those two purposes, like performance today, but better performance tomorrow, right? So we need to know what's working, learn about what we lost, how can we compensate for it, what parameters perform best against each of our KPIs. We should be looking at leveraging incrementality testing. So attribution obviously is impacted by iOS 14. In-platform metrics, maybe they're not so reliable anymore because they are so modeled, as we discussed. Publisher side experiments, so talking about conversion lift, brand lift studies that use the randomized control studies might be less reliable. For a short period of time last year, actually, Facebook paused the conversion lift option, so you couldn't have one because they had to kind of remodel and learn themselves about.
Well, I think this system broke with them, right? This lack of visibility, lack of data, or I think stop Facebooking not just people adopted out, but their learning models had no data to learn from. So, and again, one thing becomes strategy that I don't know, Mark, what's your view on Facebook and where it fits and how you sort of dealt with that whole lack of visibility?
We use Facebook quite a bit for our marketing. We've got ads set up on both sides, and I don't look at the tracking on Google Analytics at all, because you just can't trust any of the data from Facebook. But I look at the limited data I can get from Facebook, and that's kind of all I can go off. And how realistic it is it is what it is. And like you say, trialing and testing different ad copies and different audiences and stuff like that is the only kind of thing we can do to see what works. But it's making it more difficult. And I feel for agencies that are social media agencies that are running accounts for people, because we've just brought our social media advertising in-house, because we were running a trial on one side of the business against an agency that were running it for us, and we were getting similar kind of results, and we were like, well, it's good to see that we can do it in-house with the limited skills we've got in-house, as good as the people that are the experts in the field. But I feel for them, because it must be getting harder and harder for them to get the results that people are expecting.
It is, but it's not impossible. So there are ways to prove that it works and prove that incrementality. So as I was saying, maybe you don't want to rely on the platform because you might not trust it right now, but you can do your own geo experiments. It's relatively easy to set up and execute. Doesn't rely on vast amounts of data collection. And it will enable advertisers, whether you do it in-house or if you use an agency, understand how hard is the upper funnel working to drive the lower funnel results. So I think that should be a focus for sure. And then to answer your question, John, like concretely, what we can do now to respond to iOS for paid social, for instance, but it's applicable to display and affiliates as well, to have that privacy first marketing framework. So we should all by now have the conversion API set up. So this is server-to-server tracking via a publisher's conversion API. That is absolutely a must for any direct response results that we might want to see. It allows to go beyond the issues that we have with cookie fading out and browser loading problems even. And it will allow the advertisers to pass back off-site and post-site events, like, you know, if you're a B2B and have telephones or visits or recurring subscriptions or payment, qualified leads, whatever that might be, it just helps pass that on, that signal back to the publisher, so then you can scale.
And why wouldn't anybody be using, because we speak to people all the time and they're not using the conversion API, why wouldn't they be? Is it just a lack of knowledge, a lack of awareness? What is it?
I think from what we've I think most of the clients that we had the good fortune to work with, they've been quick at reacting and implementing these. Probably the ones that haven't, I think maybe it just sounds a bit technical and complicated. Maybe they don't have the resource on their side to support them. You know, it could be like an education piece more than.
So you're sort of saying maybe that's one thing we bring at the end, is like one key takeaway: implement the conversion API, because that's
conversion API. Absolutely. Then the second one would be advanced matching. So before the iOS ad platform.
You jump into the end. Don't give the takeaways yet. You've got to hold tight.
I was trying to be efficient and answer your.
No. We've still got 10. We've still got a good 10 minutes left. So one question I've got is, I think, in my opinion, a lot of us have got in this whole digital marketing world have got addicted to sort of last click wins, the bottom of the funnel. Let's all fight over that person whose propensity to buy is quite high, and they're searching for the exact model, exact color of whatever it is you do, and we're all fighting over that same click at the bottom of the funnel. So how's this going to impact those people who are sort of just last click focused? And I don't know, Mark, do you want to? I don't know if you're last click focused or if you look at an attribution model or how you go about it, but how, from your sort of industry knowledge and experience, how do you think that's going to affect and change that whole thing for them?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's certainly going to affect things in quite a way. I mean, you know, last click is what a lot of people do tend to use, because it's, you know, it gives you a good indication as to how that customer bought right there and then. But, you know, it is also important to look at the other types of attribution that you've got, and, you know, understand that customer journey throughout, because just because that customer bought from one of your ads doesn't necessarily mean that ad is the one that's worked for everyone. You know, they could have gone on through an ad or an organic search that they did, you know, a couple of weeks back, and, you know, just because that one ad worked doesn't mean that's the be all and end all. So I think with GA4, it's easier to kind of have a look at different attribution models around, you know, what the customer journey is. So it will show you the kind of attribution between last click, first click, you know, evened out across the customer journey and stuff like that. So I've been kind of having a little play around with that to understand more of the customer journey and more about, you know, what we can do to instead of just going for that last click every time, how can we kind of get in front of the right customers, and also, you know, make sure that we're retargeting to those guys, because, you know, they're obviously looking for something that we're selling, and we want to make sure that we're always there every time they're searching for that item or a similar item.
Yeah, I think it's GA4's. I think this is just our opinion, sort of attribution specialists, is they've really made attribution easier for people to understand who don't understand attribution. And I think it'll become more commonly adopted. However, you have to take one of their models, right? You've got it's this one, this one, this one, or this one. And my view on attribution, I'm happy to be challenged with this, is all attribution models are wrong. All right. What we've got to do is pick the one that's least wrong, all right, and sort of best fit. So so sometimes a custom attribution model is required, and it's very difficult at the moment. It looks like we haven't been playing with it long enough. The GA4 couldn't deal with a custom attribution model. It looks like that. We might be wrong. I might be wrong. But something that Callum, who asked about the GA4 question, is also asked. Callum doesn't work for Bosco or Modo 25, by the way, because he keeps asking some great questions. But it's not like a setup. We need to get him to put in the chat. I don't work for. But he's asked a question about, if people are using different analytics platforms and databases, will it become more difficult to connect all these together in a cookieless world? The answer fundamentally is yes and no. It's not going to become more difficult to connect the data because you can pull it all into the cloud and then you can report on it. What I think is going to become more difficult, and again, Andrea or Mark, jump in if I get this wrong, is it's going to be basically the fundamental thing they're saying here is, if I'm on your website and you want to track me over into something else and then retarget me or message me, right, you won't necessarily be able to do that, right? So that's the main thing. So you won't be able to stalk people around the internet. However, you will still be able to connect. If you've got a platform like Bosco or you've got other reporting and analytics platforms, you'll be able to pull in your different channel, so your spend data, your conversion data, and you should, with the right connectors and the right brain power, be able to produce reports. But the bit we're going to lose is that ability to stalk people around the internet. And I suppose it's going to be that Criteo remarketing type thing that's going to suffer the most, those sorts of tools. I don't know if I've answered that correctly, Andrea or Mark.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you there. So definitely, like, cross-channel attribution will be impacted. I agreed with you when you said that there's no right attribution model, like each one kind of skews on their own agendas a little bit. I like whoever asked, and if they're using multiple attribution platforms, keep on doing that and get all the learnings that you can from different angles and different points of views. I think that's very important to power your planning and strategy on activation in the future. From a reporting point of view, you already answered, like, there's a way we can connect all that. But also, so that does not mean that we should not use attribution, or maybe we should take it with a little bit of a pinch of salt, but we should instead use that alongside other type of measurement solutions as well. So it should all be a bit of a hybrid model. So I'm sure you will have heard out there people talking about econometrics, media mix modeling making a comeback, incrementality studies. Like, we need to take all the signals and all the learnings from all the various sources that we can, and then feed them into our activation strategy.
And I suppose, Mark, for you're working in a business, it's an online business, and you've got bosses there that probably spent X on Facebook, got this back, and spend X on Google, get this back. How are you managing to sort of articulate that legislation, platforms, and people are moving the goalposts, which means that actually that £10,000 that we spent this time last year we could track, now we can't track it? How does that conversation go? And
well, I mean, thankfully, I haven't had to have that difficult conversation yet. But it's certainly something that will be coming when he when he starts looking at the reports and trying to understand where the money's going. But it's I've done a big project over the last kind of 12 months on reducing our spend anyway. Because I've basically halved it from where we were, and now it's a case of kind of building that back up again. But yeah, as you say, eventually it's going to be where is that money being spent? Because we can't track it fully, but it's as long as I can get some data from analytics, and I can split it between that and the Shopify data that we've got from the websites, and get data from Facebook, I should be able to kind of, as you say, come up with a hybrid model that shows kind of what we're spending where, and kind of understand, okay, well, we need to make sure that we're spending less on this, like, platform like yourselves can kind of quantify that data and say, we need to spend that in a better area because we're not spending it in the right way or not getting the return.
Yeah. So just for everybody's peace of mind, Callum works for Arsenal, not Motor 25, Arsenal Football Club. I've got a separate issue with that, being a Leeds fan, but
I have as well, being a Spurs fan.
So yeah, we should get Callum on the stage next time. But we've got another question from John Leach, and this is something I've been talking about a lot, right? So with all of this, right, we've all got addicted to performance marketing, right? Spend £1, get £10 back, boom, boom, boom. We've all been driving it really hard. The mathematicians and the clever data scientists are taking over marketing, right? So should we then actually go back to some more old-fashioned marketing, right? Thinking about higher level brand campaigns, thinking about sort of more, maybe it's like direct mail or catalogs or posters or TV, because there's companies out there and marketing teams out there that probably now, because this has been the go-to for the last 15 years, maybe don't know how to plan a catalog campaign, or maybe don't know how to plan a TV campaign. So I don't know, is this going to be the rebirth of old-fashioned Mad Men and media buying? What do we reckon, Mark? We're going to be, because you do, but still do bits of catalog and things as well. But
yeah, we still do.
Is it going to increase? Do you think?
Well, yeah, I mean, we still do a lookbook, and maybe we do need to look at doing that a bit more. And we're actually at the moment thinking about flyers in the post to all salons in our area, and trying to do a bit of direct mail like that, because yeah, I mean, it's nobody's doing it anymore because everyone's doing it online. But why don't we go back to the old ways? They worked so well in the past. This
I'm just throwing this out there, right? This is as somebody who runs a data-driven analytics digital business, this is a crazy thing to say. But I was at a big event, and I met a retailer who said, I don't do any Google marketing or Facebook marketing anymore. And I said, why? And he goes, I've analyzed the cost per customer acquisition of each new order, and the cost to acquire a customer is actually more expensive than the rent on a shop, right? And the number of customers I can get in a shop, because high street rents are so cheap because nobody wants shops anymore, that he's stopped doing the internet, and he was an internet only business to start with, and now he's gone and opened up a shop, right?
It will be very interesting to have a chat with him in about, I don't know, 3-5 years time to see, to get the learnings.
Yeah, it'll be interesting.
Yeah,
it's
definitely.
like, because rents are cheap and this, that, and the other, it's going to be interesting. And that, my answer is, it's a bit John's question before, is I think it's about good, proper marketing executed across all the channels, not just trying to smash and grab the last click. So we're just running over time, which I always say we won't do. So right, so we can both do 2 quick sort of must-have takeaways. So what are the things, if we're sat at our desk tomorrow, what can we do to think about for the cookieless world? So I don't know, Mark, do you want to go first? 2 things people can do differently or should think about?
Well, definitely GA4, and making sure they've got that set up and running, because you need to make sure that it's collecting data right now, so that even if you don't use it for the next 12 months until it gets fully launched, definitely get it set up so it's collecting historic data. And look at your attribution models and understand the ways that different attribution models can work for you.
Okay, good. Andrea, you can't use the same 2. You've got to do 2 different ones.
No, I would still go with leverage your first party data. So apart from just using your customer list to create custom audiences and things like that, that data that you have there has a lot of rich insight that advertisers can still leverage for qualitative analysis and predictive modeling, which all these platforms are doing. For instance, building a lifetime value model is very simple and an effective way to understand the key factors that influence your loyal customers, right? And then you can use that and filter that and create this as seeds audiences to get quality people coming through your website in a privacy-centric and future-proof manner. And then I would have to say, embrace the power of modeling. Like all the
I thought you were going to do conversion API. I thought.
Yeah, well, yeah, those are like
that could be the third one.
The tactical things that you should have by now. But like for the actual future, and it kind of goes alongside with what Mark was saying, like, obviously implement GA4 and all that, like that's best practice. You should be doing that. But you should also understand that that data, or part of that data that you see there, is modeled. It's not actual data apart from now search, right? That's very down the funnel. So embrace that power of modeling. Think about modeling actively yourselves. Come up with measurement frameworks yourselves as well, outside of maybe attribution or complementary. And in any case, with attribution, think about media mix modeling, and don't think that digital performance is dead. It's not dead. It's still there. It's still measurable. It's just a little bit more difficult than it used to be.
So this internet thing might take off, do you reckon?
I think it will take off.
Yeah. So we've got one last quick question, which is a long answer. So Rachel, I might answer this offline, or I'll follow up with you. The question is how much data do you need to get the most out of machine learning? Right. There is a volume of data, a frequency and volume of data you need for the machine learning to work, but our particular models have been built in a way to start making decisions with the small amount of data. So again, if you've got an e-commerce website, you can plug your data in for free, test it, see if it works for you. But there is normally, we say, people spending less than £10,000 a month, there probably isn't enough data for it to give meaningful answers. So hopefully that answers everybody's questions. One last couple of quick things before we say goodbye. I've just shared the link for the last session, so you should be able to see that. And I'm just going to share my screen to highlight the next panel session that we're going to do. Let me just get rid of that. Hopefully you can see, my screen. And the next panel session we've got is with David from Currys, and we're going to be talking about in-housing. So you can't come on twice in a row, Mark, but you've just done this. So, but it's a thing a lot of people are looking at, especially with people trying to save money, take control of their own destiny, is like, which bit should you or shouldn't you be in housing? So we're going to be doing that on the 7th of September. So come along to that. Dan's going to be sort of talking through different examples of some really complex things we've done with big clients, including recruiting people, training people, helping them buy systems. So it's not just a case of, oh, there you go, you do it. It's quite a complicated process. But if you want to know more about attribution, if you just email yes, please, to me at askbosco.io, or scan that QR code. There's no forms, there's no having to fill anything out. You'll get sent straight to a link so you can read that paper, which features several retailers talking about what they've done in attribution. And I'd just like to thank you again for joining us. Hopefully you found it useful. If you want to stay online now, feel free. We can give Andrea and Mark a quick quiz. Just stay around and we can turn your camera on and you can ask any more questions. If not, have a great rest of the week and a wonderful weekend, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Cheers.
This is the big question: is anybody going to stay? And how long do we give them? Let's see, we've got a few. If you do want to stay and put your hand up, I'll turn your mic on